What's that sound? It's for amusement only, the EM and Bingo Pinball Podcast.
Welcome back to For Amusement Only. This is Nick Baldridge. I have a special announcement this episode, and with me is Ryan Claytor, good friend and comics artist.
Hello. I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on the show.
Yeah, absolutely.
Good to be back on.
Couldn't have this show without you because we're going to be discussing our latest co-venture, Coin-Op Carnival.
Yes. As you know, Nick, we have spent over 2 years working on this publication venture called Coin-Op Carnival. So Coin-Op Carnival is going to be a 4-issue limited series book about electromechanical coin-operated amusement devices, that's pinball and non-video arcade games, basically from 1978 and prior. This publication is 64 pages in length, this first issue, and it is entirely illustrated. I'm not sure if your listeners are aware or not, but I am a comics artist and a university professor, and I have illustrated this entire book that you and I have co-written together. I am beyond proud of what you and I have put together here, especially after taking so long to produce this thing. I'm just itching for people to see this.
So the cornerstone piece of each issue is going to be a designer interview. This first issue is going to be an interview with Wayne Nyans, who has turned 100 last year. He'll be 101 this year, which is just incredible. And he's still amazingly sharp, as Ryan will attest as well. And we've been lucky enough to befriend him during this process and get to pick his brain fairly frequently in order to ensure historical accuracy during the illustration portion of the interview, as well as filling in any gaps in information that might be necessary.
You mentioned that Ryan can attest to that. Well, I can, because over the course of illustrating this interview for, almost 2 years, I was in pretty frequent contact with Wayne. I would call him up usually about every other week and ask him pretty detailed historical questions about what I was illustrating, because I wanted this to be historically accurate. This is a quality that you and I share, that we want to preserve this history. I think we work really well together. If that was not an interest of mine, this would not be nearly as fun a project for me when you repeatedly talk to me about how things should be versus what I have drawn. So, I can't say enough good things about Wayne. Not only is he incredibly sharp and cognizant, even as a centenarian, but he also is just really funny and a really personable, friendly, humorous guy. So it's really been a pleasure getting to know him over the course of this project that we did.
Aside from that, there are game reviews. There is a arcade review and a pinball review and a product review, and also an EM tech segment. The game reviews, Ryan takes one, I take one. Ryan does the product review, and then I've done the technical segment. This issue, the technical segment, is on relays. As you might be aware, if you've listened to this show for a while, are kind of the building blocks of EM. And accessible technical description awaits in this issue, and future issues will contain each of these elements, plus a few surprises, including this first issue. Lots to look forward to. Ryan, is there a particular piece that you're proud of in this issue?
There is a bunch. I've said this before publicly, but I truly believe that this is the best work I have ever done in my cartooning career, and I'm so excited to be sharing this with you. I don't know if I can single out a portion. I mean, the cover design itself took weeks to produce. There's a number of full-blown comics in here, from, the introduction between you and I, and even sort of a connective piece for the Wayne interview. I'm really proud of that. There's parts of the tech segment that I honestly never thought I would be able to draw that have really, really pushed the boundaries of me as a cartoonist. I've mentioned a few times that I have difficulty drawing interlocking items, and that is essentially all that I drew in this this tech segment. So, I took copious photographs and made multiple iterations and drew on multiple layers to create some of these drawings, and in an attempt to make something that a person like I, as a relatively new person to the hobby and to working in electromechanical games and fixing them, could understand. Because there's no secret between you and I'm definitely the noob of us when it comes to fixing the games. I feel a whole lot more confident now than I did, when I started. But I think that's another part where you and I make a really great team, because in segments like the tech article, you would write something and then I would come back and say, well, as a bonehead, I don't know what this means. Like, what, can we clarify this? Can we talk about this a little bit more? And it wasn't just you coming up with suggestions for my illustrations, but it was me coming up with suggestions for your written parts and you with my written parts too. I mean, this is really a wildly collaborative effort. And I think that when people first catch a glimpse of this thing and they see how heavily illustrated it is, and we've been talking about how I am the only one illustrating this thing, which is true. They'll probably think, oh well, this is more a Ryan Claytor publication than it is a Nick publication, and I firmly believe that this publication would be a shell of what it is today without your involvement, Nick. So I happily credit you as co-creator for this and look forward to producing more issues with you too.
Yeah, I'm happy to be that co-creator and happy to be working with you. I'm thrilled about this and getting it in people's hands. And to that end, we're both headed to the Texas Pinball Festival, March 22nd through 24th. On the 22nd, which is a Friday, Ryan and I have a seminar on the creation of Coin-Op Carnival. And at that seminar, which is that Friday, March 22nd at 8 p.m., Gordon Hassey, noted pinball historian, will be part of our seminar. I would advise everybody who's heading to Texas Pinball Festival to come and check it out.
Yeah, I just feel so honored and fortunate to have Gordon Hassey there to contextualize where this publication fits into the larger lexicon of pinball publications, what's come before us, essentially, and where ours fits into this. Gordon produced one of the very first pinball publications, co-produced it with Steve Young, who your listeners probably know from the Pinball Resource, and their publication was the Pinball Collectors Quarterly. That was a big influence on both of us as well. Both you and I have the entire run of that and look to it quite frequently as a source of inspiration. And I would hope that we carry on their legacy. And so it's really meaningful to me to have one of the co-creators of the Pinball Collector Quarterly present at the debut of our publication.
Absolutely. After the seminar, we'll be on hand all weekend selling the books. The book's cover price is $15. We will also have some other merchandise as well. There's a t-shirt, which is also illustrated by Ryan. You might notice a theme here. There's nothing illustrated by Nick on any of these things. And the other thing that we'll have are lapel pins.
They're essentially monochromatic metal pins. So these are not enamel pins. These are not colored pins. It's sort of an antique gold finish. And they are based off the Coin-Op Carnival shield logo that I designed, and in sort of a relief fashion. I think they look immaculate. I mean, they are exactly what I wanted them to be. They're definitely an ancillary item. They're not going to be for everybody straight away, but I figure, we'll have these for, the very committed readers. Ultimately, it's, this is a passion project, and I want one.
Well, that's the thing. It's been a joy to work on this with you, and hopefully you feel the same way. There have been difficult times, but for the most part, it's been easy breezy and just a lot of fun. And so the lapel pins, in my mind, are just one of those fun items. They're representative of kind of the whole venture.
Yeah, I mean, when you mention the fact that there are difficult times in creating this, I never think about those as in relation to you. Like, it's more about trying to meet a deadline of TPF or coordinating production of something like the book or the pins or what have you. But, your involvement in this book has been exactly what I want it to be, which is very engaged and providing feedback, because I don't always get that when I'm producing my own books, so it's nice to have another set of eyes on this, another person who is as engaged as I am, which is difficult to find, and have that constant feedback. I mean, you and I, we combed through this issue multiple times over leading up to the printing of it. And I just feel like we have this thing so tightened up. It is so ready to go, and I cannot wait to share it with people.
Yeah, I feel the same. And hopefully everybody enjoys it. They enjoy 4 or 5 copies. That's
They make great gifts.
They do. This issue I'm very proud of, as you can probably hear, and so is Brian. And we're very much looking forward to sharing it with everybody at Texas Pinball Festival 2019, March 22nd through 24th in Frisco, Texas. While you're there, I will be trucking down the multi-bingo for everybody's enjoyment, for everybody's amusement only. And that will be in our booth, the Coin Op Carnival booth. It should be a lot of fun. And I'm looking forward to meeting new friends, new listeners, seeing everybody try the multi-bingo, hit that 5 in a line. I mean, that's really what everybody needs to do.
You and I have done a couple of podcasts in recent days, and one of them was with this Flippin' podcast, and we chat with Taylor Reese, and the three of us remained on the line after the recording stopped. And one of the things that we were talking about was the multi-bingo. First, the fact that you're crazy enough to bring this thing multiple states away, a 20-hour drive to Texas, and share this with people. But secondly, and most importantly, I think, is the labor that Nick has put into the multi-bingo and the unparalleled creation that this is. I don't know that many people in the world can understand what this thing is. And that's including myself, but I've been fortunate enough to be in very close contact with you, Nick, as you've been creating the multi-bingo over a 2+ year period. I would typically get like daily updates on what you were doing. And, I'm genuinely interested in how this thing was coming along. And, now, I mean, you can see the fruits of your labor. It's essentially complete. And the reason I want to mention all this is so that your listeners can understand maybe a little bit more of the time and effort that you have put into this. I mean, I think Nick may have mentioned on the podcast before, but I'm sure he's not looking to toot his own horn, that he has wire for wire replicated every single production game and more. I think some non-production games too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, Nick and I are very close. Our families vacation together typically every summer. And I have been at dining room tables late at night where Nick has his development computer open and a mile-long schematic next to it. And he is transcribing this schematic into a digital format that can be read by the multi-bingo. So he did this daily, and it's finished now. On top of that, the level of polish in the actual machine itself, he's taken graphics from existing machines. He's taken, even though this is driven by the P3 Rock board, a modern circuit board set, he has included units and elements from electromechanical games that are there strictly to replicate the authentic sound that they would make in the machine. So the attention to detail here is above and beyond. It is on another level. There's not adequate words to describe it. So I hope that when people walk up to this thing at Texas, that I'm sure they won't understand that, but hopefully that can be felt, like the fact that this still feels like an electromechanical game. It sounds like an electromechanical game. It is a physical pinball experience. There are balls rolling around the playfield. Yes, the back glass is dynamic and it can change based on which one of the 140 some odd games you're playing. But I mean, it is a real world analog electromechanical feeling experience. And that did not come easily.
That is true. That is all true. Thanks, Ryan. The games are very complex. They're very difficult, I would say. It's hard to win, and you need to be playing them. There are some people who come up to a bingo pinball machine and say, there's no flippers, you just plunge a ball and that's it. But you have to be connected with the game in order to win. You have to grab the cabinet and move it. That is how you win, is by putting the balls in the holes that you want to be in without tilting. So it's quite the experience. And I'll be on hand to explain the game's rules. Each game, of course, has their own rule set, and they are exceedingly complex, some of them. So don't let that scare you away. It's just part of the fun. And when you think that these things are electromechanical games, it might change your opinion of how simple you might think electromechanical games are. It certainly did for me. It's something I've just never looked back from. They're just incredible.
Yeah, I mean, if you open up the back box of one of these things, it's like 3 pinball machines jammed into a back box. It's unbelievable. And some of them have motor-driven affairs and bicycle chains moving, magic screen across the numbers. It's mad science at its best. The reason I went off on this diatribe to begin with is because I don't think that enough people are talking about what you have made, Nick. So I try to put that out into the public consciousness as often as I possibly can. And also to say that I'm really proud to have your creation in our booth, even though it's not directly related to Coin-Op Carnival, and that's kind of what we're marketing there. I think that multi-bingo is going to be a real draw, or at least it should be.
I can't disagree. I'd love for it to get just a ton of play. So aside from that, after Texas, Ryan and I will be embarking on a promotional tour for Coin-Op Carnival. This is, I think, the first of its kind.
It's probably the first of its kind to happen for a pinball publication. At least I don't know of any other publication that has gone on a promotional tour for pinball specifically.
Right. Yeah. We'll be making 16 stops across 10 different states, promoting Coin-Op Carnival, talking about the creation, holding book signings. Ryan, did you have any particular stops that you wanted to talk about?
Again, I'm really excited to be launching this with you. And this tour is something that would be difficult for either you or I to do alone. I mean, we both have families, we both have jobs, and our time is limited. But between the two of us, we can cover a lot more ground than we would individually. So, Texas, of course, is a stop that I'm really excited about. I mean, we're releasing the book there, and that will be the first time that the public gets to set their eyes on it. And we're going to start to get some feedback about this thing, which has been over 2 years in the making. So I want to know what people think. But outside of that, probably the second tour stop that we're doing has my attention really dedicated to it. And that is a solo stop for me. It's in my state of Michigan, and I teach at Michigan State University, which is where the second tour stop is going to be held. That tour stop is going to be at the Abrams Planetarium on campus, and the planetarium might sound like an odd place to hold a book signing, except for the fact that, we've mentioned the fact that we've become close with Wayne over the course of doing this Wayne Nyens interview for the publication. And one of the things I did was I took a road trip down to see Wayne. And when I did that, I took a 360-degree camera with me, and I filmed a couple of short interviews with Wayne. One was about a 10-minute segment in his garage talking about his last remaining pinball machine, the Spirit of 76, which he has a tremendous story about. So he goes over that and the gameplay. And then the second short interview with Wayne is another 10 minutes or so, where we set this 360-degree camera up in his home office, and he and I are sitting there, and he's pointing out different pieces of memorabilia hanging on his wall. And it's a really immersive experience in the planetarium. It feels like you're sitting in Wayne's office. It feels like you're standing in Wayne's garage, because this is a 360-degree experience. The thing I wanted to touch on too about the office interview is that instead of sort of squinting at the planetarium walls from your seats, trying to see what he's talking about, I took high-resolution photographs of every single piece that he's talking about on his wall. And through the help of the planetarium tech, John French, thank you very much, John, for all your help with this, we have programmed this so that these pieces of memorabilia zoom into planetarium size images so that you can see what's going on here. You can see what Wayne is talking about. And in addition to that, I've superimposed video gameplay of Wayne playing the pinball machine, additional subtitles that I had to manually create. And in addition to all that, I'll be talking about the publication to begin with before the videos that I show. And then afterward, of course, there will be a book signing. But this is going to be a stop where I have coordinated a number of Wayne Nyan's games to be present and on free play after the presentation and during the book signing. So we will have Gottlieb's 1956 Scoreboard, which is a 4-player dedicated 3-ball game. That's part of my collection. There will be a Gottlieb Paul Bunyan that is also part of my collection. That's from 1968, and it's the last pinball machine that Wayne designed. We're also going to have a Gottlieb Around the World. I have a buddy in town here who has that title that I am very covetous of, and I've managed to convince him to bring it out to the planetarium show. So he's agreed to bring it there. He's actually been doing a ton of work on it in preparation for the planetarium show. He bought a new BG Resto back glass for it, so that looks immaculate. He's torn it apart and cleaned it. He's putting it back together right now and waiting on rubbers. So it should be in fine working condition when it shows up there, as will all of these. A fourth machine that's going to show up is actually the pinball machine that you reviewed, Nick. Mystic Marvel from Gottlieb is going to make an appearance there. There's another collector from Grand Rapids who has been gracious enough to commit his newly acquired Mystic Marvel to this planetarium presentation, and there might be even another game or two. We'll see how it goes. I don't have solid commitments on those, so there's going to be at least 4 Wayne Nyan's games at the show available on free play.
That's fantastic. I was lucky enough to see a preview of this presentation as Ryan was programming it, and Ryan got a taste of programming. Yeah, it was very impressive. This is before I had been down to see Wayne with Ryan. We went to his 100th birthday party. I got to have a little sneak peek, and it was cool. I'm hopeful that everybody within driving distance will be able to make that presentation. Definitely check out the free play games for sure. Those are 4 great titles.
Yeah, I agree. I hope that everybody within driving distance can come also, and I would recommend you showing up early. It starts at 6 p.m. on a Sunday evening. It's April 14th. There's 140 seats in the planetarium, and initially I was thinking that will be plenty for people, but the more people I talk with about this presentation, I am continually surprised at how many of them instantly say, I will be there. I am going to come. And even people there's folks who have committed to driving 2-3 hours to get here that night. So I would recommend showing up early because it will be a first come, first serve affair. I don't know if we will fill 140 seats, but I would really hate for somebody to drive a long way and then not be able to see it. So please show up early if you are doing that.
Very good. As Ryan mentioned, this is a solo stop for him, but there are going to be some coordinated stops where we're both together, and then there will be some where I'm flying solo as well. So of the 16, there's going to be a spread of what you might get. So be sure to check the tour schedule. And Ryan, where can they find that tour schedule?
Have we talked about our website yet?
We haven't.
My goodness. CoinOpCarnival.com. How did we bury this lead? How many minutes are we in?
Yeah, let's put it all the way at the back,
Yeah. CoinOpCarnival.com has a bunch of stuff related to this publication, as you might suspect. One of the pages is an appearances page with the tour graphic itself, and then Nick has painstakingly retyped the entire tour so that you can easily copy and paste and link to these different sites that we're going to. But we are really trying to hit every corner of the nation. I mean, we have stops in the West, in California and Nevada. We have stops in the East, in Virginia and Pennsylvania. We have stops in the Midwest, in Chicago, Illinois, and Wisconsin, and Michigan, and Indiana. We have stops in the South and Texas. So we've really tried to hit all over the United States. So I sincerely hope that people can come out and take a look at this publication that we have been laboring on so lovingly for so long.
Definitely. We're very excited to share this with people, and hopefully you'll be interested enough to check it out. If you have any questions on the publication, we'll be in our booth all weekend at the Texas Pinball Festival, and at any of the tour stops, obviously, we'll be accessible.
And if by chance you are unable to make it to the tour stops, we're also doing our best to be as accessible as humanly possible online. Not only do we have a dedicated website, but we also have a Facebook group for Coin-Op Carnival. We've created a Pinside thread. We have a Twitter account. So we are in many places and accessible at all of those.
Ryan, I did want to say it's been a pleasure working on this with you. I've always had just a phenomenal experience working with Ryan on commercial projects, and getting to collaborate with them on something like this has been just a dream. I mean, it's been really easy, which has been fantastic. So Ryan, thank you. Your skill is incredible. I mean, it's something that I absolutely do not have. So it's been breathtaking to see the daily updates from you with your illustration work, and then your flatting work and your coloration work and your inking work. I mean, it's just beyond me completely. So I can write some words on a page, but I can't I can't make them look pretty.
Well, thanks, man. That really means a lot to me. And I think we have a mutual admiration society here, because I feel very similarly toward you in regard to your tech prowess. I mean, I could never write those articles. And in terms of a partner in a venture like this, you've been exactly what I want you to be, which is extraordinarily engaged and, having many suggestions of your own on how to improve this, and just involved up until the very end, up until, I pressed the send button to the printer to make this happen. I mean, we were iterating on this thing up until the end, multiple times over, multiple times a day. So, I couldn't ask for a better collaborator in you. So thanks, Nick.
Well, it's a good thing we like each other, because we have more planned. So we haven't killed each other yet. And we have 3 more issues planned in the series. Each issue is going to release roughly-ish every 2 years or so. That should give us enough time to allow the project to have the creative freedom that we need to get it done the right way, as we did with this.
Already in releasing information about the publication, we've been getting a little pushback or questioning maybe on why the timeline is sort of spread out for a serialized publication, once every couple years or so. We're not even committing to 2 years, but 2 years-ish, I think is reasonable to expect. Why that long between issues? And I am going to be the first to say that it's because of me, because I am the only one illustrating this publication, and I am not the fastest artist, and I also have a great number of obligations that come before Coin-Op Carnival. Coin-Op Carnival is a passion project that I am ridiculously passionate about. But with that said, family always comes first. It's also not my sole means of income. In fact, I don't even know if it's going to be a means of income. We'll see. So I mentioned the fact that I am a professor at Michigan State University, but that is not a typical 9-to-5 gig. Yes, I teach comic studio courses. I interact with students. I have office hours. I'm grading. I'm lesson planning. But in addition to that, I'm also an event director for an annual multi-day event called the Michigan State University Comics Forum. And this event has grown exponentially over the years and seen growth not only in terms of attendance, but also in terms of participants, both scholars and creators and keynote speakers, and moving to different venues to accommodate all of that, and coordinating payment for everyone. And as you can imagine, that is a huge, huge task to undertake, and one that occupies my time throughout the year. And I'm not sure if your listeners know this, but I am also a podcaster. I produce the Michigan State University comic art and graphic novel podcast that releases monthly throughout the academic year. The main portion of that podcast is an in-depth creator interview, which requires a good deal of research on my part prior to conducting those interviews. I refuse to go in cold talking to people. So I read copiously their body of work and develop informed questions for that. So that's also a big time commitment for me too, which I need to keep up on because it's something I'm contractually obligated to do for my job. It's a really fantastic and fun part of my job, but it's something I also need to keep up on. So anyway, all this to say, I have been drawing Coin-Op Carnival #1 every single day for the past 2 years, and it has taken me 2+ years to create this first issue that's coming out. So this 2-year estimation is something that I'm trying to be honest with myself about and trying to be honest with our potential readers about, so that we're not overpromising and underdelivering. We would rather deliver what we promise. We've had suggestions of, oh, hey, why don't you release this quarterly? Or why don't you release this on a more frequent basis? And the truth of the matter is, we would love to. In fact, that was something that we initially planned to do. But as this publication grew and morphed and evolved from 24 to 32 to 48 to 56 to 64 pages, it became very clear that our original thoughts for a publication deadline were going to have to change, and they have changed into what we've announced. As I think Nick said before, we would like to take that same flexible approach to creating subsequent issues that we did the first, allowing each issue to be what it needs to be. I think if we had set a hard and fast page count of 24, that this publication wouldn't be what we want it to be, Nick.
One other thing which I'm particularly proud of is that we're not taking any pre-order money. I mean, we have the things printed on hand. We have the shirts. We have the pins. It's not something where you're going to give us money and then we disappear for a long time and then maybe you get a thing. No, you'll get it right away.
We are not going to do pre-orders, nor do we have any plans to do pre-orders into future issues. Essentially what happened for this first issue is I applied for a production grant to create the first printing of Coin-Op Carnival #1. Michigan State University has a production grant that can be applied for, and to my surprise and happiness, we received this production grant. So essentially, we got the first run printed on somebody else's dime. So we have all these issues in the can for free, which means we can take every penny we earn from Coin-Op Carnival #1 and put it into an account that will be used to print Coin-Op Carnival #2, and then subsequently into 3 and issue #4 to end the series. So we're pretty confident that we will never ask for money up front before a product is ready. And that's why we're coordinating our web store release for March 22nd so that there's not even a couple weeks worth of pre-order. It's all released the same day, and it's all going to be shipped at the same time. It's all going to be handed to people at the same time in person. So I'm also really adamant about not taking anyone's money until something's ready, and proud that we were able to do that.
It's great to get this out in the world. That is the other project which I've been mentioning for the past few episodes that I've been working on. We have this beautiful book. We have these beautiful t-shirts. We have these beautiful pins. Come see us at the Texas Pinball Festival in Frisco, Texas, March 22nd through the 24th at the Coin-Op Carnival booth, and catch our seminar Friday, March 22nd at 8 p.m. Ryan, thanks very much for coming on the show, and I hope to talk to you here soon.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me on, Nick. It's been a pleasure working with you.
Absolutely. Same to you. I'll see you March 22nd, if not before.
See you then, my man.
Great.
That's all for tonight. Thank you very much for listening. My name again is Nick Baldridge. You can reach me at foramusementonlypodcast@gmail.com, or you can call me on the Bingos line. That's 724-BINGOS1, 724-246-4671. You can listen to me on iTunes, Stitcher, Pocket Casts, via RSS, on Facebook, on Twitter at Bingo Podcast. You can follow me on Instagram, also at Bingo Podcast, or you can listen to me on my website, which is foramusementonly.libsyn.com. Thank you very much for listening, and I'll talk to you next time.